Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about a little bit of kind of a more serious topic. I'm going to kind of discuss my anxiety and depression and also how that affects me on a day-to-day basis and also how it affects me as a mom. So I wrote some notes because I wanted to kind of make sure that I talked about everything and was able to kind of focus and get across what I want to say. I'm not going to edit this video, it's just going to be my thoughts, my ramblings, because that's how I am with my anxiety. So I just kind of want this to be raw and unedited so you can see what it's like. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It might be 10 minutes. It might be half an hour. I'm just going to talk and see where it takes us. So kind of to give you a little backstory on me and how I got diagnosed with my anxiety. I think I've always, looking back on my life, I think I've always kind of had social anxiety. I was never good at making new friends, never was the one to approach people. So thank you to all those people in my life who made the first step and talked to me and made the time for me to become friends with me. Even if I said I didn't want to be friends with you, you know who you are. But honestly, thank you to those people because you have actually been the people that have stuck through me in my life. So yeah, always having social anxiety. Even now, still having social anxiety, like taking the kids to a couple mom groups, and unless somebody comes up to me and says hi and starts a conversation, I'm not going to be the person, which makes me feel bad because it makes me feel like I'm limiting my kids' options of who they could have friends with because I can't go and talk to other people. I think, so I've always kind of had that. And then when, I guess after I had my daughter, so almost 4 years ago, things kind of, there was a couple events in my life, and then I think probably postpartum had a little bit to do with it as well, although that was never officially confirmed that I had postpartum, but I'm sure that it played a role. When my daughter was about 5 months old, we moved from our own place into my mother's basement because of some financial things and other things that I'm not going to talk about at this time. And so I think those sort of events and the events of the next year and a half to 2 years kind of triggered my severe anxiety and depression. Sorry if you hear other noises. The apartment that we live in already has the heat turned on and it's stinking hot today for some reason, so I had to have the window open or I'm gonna sweat to death while I do this video. So my anxiety for the most part manifests itself as severe irritability. I lose my temper very easily, or just am generally overall irritated, which as a mom is the worst feeling, to lose your temper at your kids when they don't deserve it. On a good day, being a mom is very emotionally draining and mentally draining, but adding anxiety on top of it is just sometimes the cherry on top that just sets you off and sends you down a spiral. when people hear the word anxiety, I think a lot of people think that you're just scared and nervous and worry about things all the time. And while for some people that may be true, for me it is a little bit. The worry for me is not necessarily a constant worry, but when certain situations come up, I'm always thinking about the worst case scenario, or what could happen, or what's the worst possibility. So that's a difficult thing to deal with, especially when you're trying to learn how to kind of pull yourself out of those mindsets and out of those moods when they do happen, which is definitely something I still struggle with and I'm still working on. It's trying to recognize when those thoughts and when those moods aren't warranted, or what triggered them and how to kind of work around it. A lot of the time, my anxiety makes me feel really alone and isolated. Part of that is also I am a little bit isolated from the rest of my family. I live about 2 to 3 hours away from my mom and my dad, and we live about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour away from my husband's parents. And because of my social anxiety, I don't really have any friends where we live. So that's a hard thing to deal with, especially being a mom and being a stay-at-home mom. Not having any other adult interaction for 80% of your day is really draining. So that takes a toll on things also in my marriage too, because when my husband goes out and does things with his friends, I feel a lot of resentment sometimes because he has friends and I don't have friends who are around. So it's difficult a lot of the days, when some days you just want to go and see your friends and visit them, and so that makes things really difficult. I don't know why I thought of this or what it was. I was just thinking about doing this video the other day, and this kind of analogy or metaphor came to me, and it says, and I thought about it, it says, having anxiety is the mental equivalent to being physically overweight. So, meaning that, how when you're overweight, you get physically tired really easily and exhausted from doing minimal effort things that someone who is in shape or physically active wouldn't have problems with. So with having anxiety, it's very, I get mentally drained very quickly and very easily just from doing little things. On the weekend when we went to go and do family pictures that we just did ourselves, we were only taking pictures for maybe all of 15-20 minutes. But by the end of it, I was just exhausted trying to wrangle everybody and get the kids to cooperate and try and keep it fast so my husband wasn't getting irritated or bored and saying is this done yet. So just little things like that sometimes are just so draining mentally that it starts to take a toll on your physical body as well. The last 2 days for me have been not good days. Spent most of the last 2 days in the bed with the kids watching movies because that's all I could mentally bring myself to do. You know what I mean? And things like wearing the same clothes for the last 2 days and not showering. And it's just all things that to outside people and people who don't understand, they may think that it's just laziness or that I don't care or stuff like that. But in reality, it's just that's all I'm physically capable of doing that day. And we've been eating leftovers because by the time my husband comes home at 6 o'clock, I don't have energy or physical or mental to even think of what to cook for dinner. So I just heat up what's left over and just and having anxiety, I think, is really difficult for me, and I think for a lot of people, because it's not something that can be seen outwardly. Like if you break a bone, you have a cast. People can see that you have something that's broken or injured. But a lot of the times, people with anxiety and myself, you putting on a face, and everybody else may think that you're completely fine, but behind a closed door, you just melt down. So that's a really hard thing, even in my marriage, for my husband to kind of understand, because if you don't have anxiety, you don't understand the kind of just spirals and loops that your brains do. Even now, I don't really know how to explain it. Yeah, so like it makes communicating with my husband in my marriage very difficult, because I take everything as a personal attack. So anytime we're having a disagreement or arguing about something, anything that he says, I take personally. And generally that goes one of two ways. I either completely shut down and stop talking, which does not help the conversation, or I get, on the other side of things, I get super defensive and then I start lashing out, which doesn't help things either. So communicating is a really difficult thing for me. I mean, it is for my husband as well, in different ways. But I'm not really going to get into that right now. But I remember one woman that I was talking to, she was kind of like a therapist. She was saying that we attract people in our lives, more specifically spouses, but we attract people that bring out the things that we need to work on and we need to change in ourselves, or challenge the things that we need to change. So my husband will always say what's on his mind as soon as it is. So if something's bothering him, he'll say it right then and there, which is something that I don't do. I sit and I stew and I think about every possible outcome, like, okay, if I bring this up, he could say this, and then what am I going to say, or how am I going to feel, or just things like that. So I will sit and stew on something for forever until I'm about to explode, and then I have so much emotion and fear and whatever it's about behind that already, that it's just never a positive conversation, because I already have so much coming out of me from that when I do finally get the chance or get the opportunity in my head to talk about it and bring it out, that it just never really goes very well. And mom guilt. It's bad enough without anxiety, but having anxiety makes the mom guilt 1,000 times worse, because something that a mom may feel bad about, like not taking their kids to the park that day, then I sit and I keep going and knocking myself down. Like, I should have gotten out of bed. I should have taken the kids to the park. Like, and it just keeps going and going. And then sometimes I can catch myself and kind of snap out of the spiral before it gets too bad. But some days it takes me down and it knocks me down a peg, and I'm down and out for two days, like the last couple days. And sometimes you know why or what triggered that spiral, but other times it's not. And when those things happen, it's kind of difficult to pull yourself out of it when you're not really sure why you were spiraling in the first place. So it's not an easy thing to live with. I do take medication for it. The medication doesn't fix it. It's not a cure. It evens out the extreme highs and lows that I had before I was on it. So it helps, but it's definitely not a cure. There's a lot of work that I have to do myself, which I find sometimes difficult, having 2 small children, to find the time to put in the work for myself and do things for myself. But I'm trying, and some days it's easier than others. Like on the weekend, it was winding down. I think it was about 7:30. I was about to put my daughter to bed, and I just said to my husband, I'm going to go see a movie by myself because I just need that time to myself. And I felt really good afterwards. I felt like a little bit calmer. I just kind of had that time to do nothing really and just go watch a movie and be alone. So yeah, I think everybody just has to find what... Mr. Motorcycle, excuse me. You just have to find the things that are going to help you get through it. And whether that's calling up somebody who understands or writing in a journal. I didn't particularly like writing in a journal because I felt like I was just kind of complaining. So, but I did do it's called CBT, it's a cognitive behavioral therapy group last winter, and that helped. I think it more so helped just having people to talk to who understood what I was going through. It was once a week for 2 hours for, I think it was 8 weeks. They do give you tools and try and teach you things, but I think for me it was the most helpful just having somebody to talk to about it. And could I have reached out to somebody in the group and had somebody to talk to still to this day? Yeah, I could have, but I didn't. And that's on me. That's something that, you know what I mean? I think part of me is, I don't want to bother somebody else with my problems when I know that they're struggling with the same thing. So a lot of it to other people may sound like excuses, and to an extent it probably is. But that's how my brain works and how it's wired, and I just need to get better at actually reaching out and talking to people when I need help. And I encourage anybody who may be watching this, if you're struggling with anxiety or depression, try and reach out to somebody if you need it. If anybody wants to talk in the comment section on this video, I'm more than happy to. It's just, anxiety is not an easy thing to live with, and it's something that I'm probably going to be living with the rest of my life. And it's just a part of who I am. And finding ways for my husband to be supportive when I am having those days is hard to kind of vocalize what I need. So, I don't know. Every day is a new day, and every day sometimes is a struggle, or it's a good day. So it's just what it is, and it's part of my life, and I just have to find ways to cope. And if anybody has any suggestions that have worked for them, I'd be happy to hear them, try and implement them. I know meditation helps a lot when I get the chance to do it, but I find it's not always easy to kind of sit down and do it in the moment and find 5 minutes of quiet when I have 2 screaming toddlers running around and fighting with each other or asking for juice. So it does help me when I do have the quiet to do it, but most of the time it's not till night. But yeah, just one kind of the only piece of advice that I can give to anybody struggling is just be open and honest with the people in your life when you are having bad days or when you are having off days. Just let them know, even if they don't understand it or they can't really do anything to help you. Just letting them know so that they act differently or handle the situation differently. Like, I find when I am having an off day, if I tell my husband about it, he's less likely to, like, ask me, oh, what's wrong with you? Because that's not anything that I want to hear when I'm having a bad day, when I'm having an off day mentally. So when I kind of just say to him, like, hey, I'm not doing so well today in my head, then he's a little bit more careful with choosing his words, or he's a little bit more quick to get up and deal with the kids first without me having to go do it every time. So something that I need to do a lot more is just tell him when I'm not having a good day. But anyways, I think that's enough of me blabbering and rambling. Anybody watching this has any questions or just needs to talk or anything, feel free to leave a comment. I know there's maybe not that many people will see this, but if one person sees it and it helps them, then that's all that I can ask for. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. And I promise it will be a more happy and uplifting video, hopefully not something so serious. But thank you guys for watching if you're still watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.